Ketchum's council election is open, meaning the top 2 vote getters on November 2nd will win council seats. After that, we'll go to the mayor's race, where we have incumbent Neil Bradshaw and challenges David Baravetto, H. Perry Boyle, and Spencer Cordovano. Both forums are the same format. If you're not familiar, candidates start with 2-minute introductory speeches. Then we'll allow Express reporter Greg Foley to ask questions of the candidates. Then we'll take some questions from the audience, which have been submitted in advance. And for that section, candidate responses will be limited to 30 seconds per question. Allison Kindred has a stop sign. There it is. To indicate that your time is up, please observe the time limit. Candidates can finish their sentence, but don't start a new thought. We'll try to get through this in a timely manner. After that, candidates are allowed to ask a question of their opponents, and then finally deliver a 1-minute closing statement. So like I said, we'll start with the city council candidates first. And I think we'll go in alphabetical order. So Amanda, do you have an opening statement?
I do. Thanks so much, Mark. Thank you so much to the Mountain Express for hosting this event. I wish we were eating pizza together, but we'll do our best without it. And thanks so much to the candidates participating with me today. And most importantly, thanks to everybody watching. We have such an engaged community here in Ketchum. I love hearing from all of you and talking to you, and I look forward to the questions that you've posed to us. I'm finishing up my first term on the Ketchum City Council. It's certainly been a busy 4 years with some unexpected challenges. Outside of council, I have been an attorney here in Ketchum for 16 years. I'm the owner of my own law office, and so I'm a small business owner like many of our fellow residents. I'm also proud to be the mom of a 4th grader at our amazing Hemingway STEAM school. I ran for council 4 years ago because I realized that I talked a lot and I stressed a lot about the issues facing our community. And I realized that I wanted to do more than that. I wanted to apply my experience and my steady disposition to the hard decisions that had to be made. And boy, have there been some hard decisions these past few years. But I'm proud of what I've done so far, even though there's so much more to do. Obviously, affordable housing is our #1 issue facing us right now. And I know we'll talk a lot more about that tonight. We've got to focus on sustainability and on transportation issues, on mobility and pedestrian safety and infrastructure. And importantly, we've got to keep Ketchum fun. We got to keep this town fun. We got to keep it alive, and we've got to keep it a great, vibrant community that we all want to call home long term. So I look forward to sharing my thoughts for what we can do the next 4 years on these issues and others in the question time tonight. And I think this should be fun. So thanks a lot. And I will speak with you during questions.
Thank you, Amanda. Mickey, your opening statement?
Yeah, can you hear me? Hello?
Yes.
Yep.
You can? Oh, I'm Mickey Garcia. I've lived here in Ketchum for about 40 years, and we have a crisis going on here in the country too. We have a problem with affordable housing. It's no longer affordable, and speaking of fun, it's no fun, you know, if you're barely scraping by and you can't afford a place to live. So that's why I'm running for city council. Period.
Thank you, Mickey. Courtney, your opening statement?
Hi, everyone. Big thanks to the Mountain Express for hosting this event in a safe manner this year, even though it doesn't quite have the same gravitas when you're not in front of hundreds of people waiting for the free pizza. I am Courtney Hamilton, and I'm running for a 2nd term on Ketchum City Council. When I graduated college with a degree in public policy, I had a theory that the more you study politics, the less you want to be involved in them. Then, despite my own advice to the contrary, I ran for city council at the age of 26. I ran because I saw a gap in representation in our community and felt that I owed it to Ketchum to help set the community on a course that would allow younger residents to feel heard and engaged. I considered my campaign to be a stepping stone in helping pave the way for the next generation of leaders in our community to continue Ketchum's traditions, culture, and quality of life. My involvement over the past 4 years has helped set Ketchum on a path of economic sustainability, environmental sustainability, and cultural sustainability, but there's still a lot of work to be done. Having been in city politics for 4 years now, I can officially say that my post-college theory wasn't too far off. Politics is hard and stressful and slow, but it is more important now than ever that we have local leaders who understand where Ketchum has been and have a vision for where Ketchum is going and are committed to working through the red tape and the drama to help fight for that future. I have lived nearly my whole life in this valley, and I have a lot of life left to live here. And nothing is more important to me than ensuring that Ketchum maintain its values and quality of life for future generations. I intend to continue to push for local housing options to ensure that we have a diverse community and that our arts and small businesses thrive. I aim to push Ketchum toward a greener future to help ensure that our children will get to experience snow days. And I aim to push for better communication to keep the public informed and involved with what's going on. I've learned a lot over the past 4 years, and I think I've become a more effective and efficient leader as a result, but my goals have not changed. I want Ketchum to be a place where people can stay and live meaningful lives long term, and I will continue to fight for that future. Thank you.
Thank you, Courtney. Gwen, do you have an opening statement?
I do, thank you. Thank you for hosting this meeting to help the public better understand the candidates for Ketchum City Council and Mayor. My husband and I became full-time Ketchum residents in 2008. Being primarily a tourist destination, Ketchum deals with substantial issues that affects its economy. Businesses are always challenged because they go from times when they are overly busy to times when the town is quiet. This poses significant staffing issues, which have been pushed well beyond normal circumstances during COVID. If elected, I will assure that a comprehensive community housing plan is developed. This plan will assure an increase in workforce affordable housing while guiding development over the next 10 years. It will fully consider the need for business development, including traffic and parking, and will involve input from all stakeholders in Ketchum. This process will be fully transparent. An immediate action item will require addressing the short-term rental issue. Ketchum currently has over 250 short-term rentals. Ketchum must begin to limit and license the number of short-term rentals. One idea could be that owners should be required to bid for licenses with the proceeds set aside for workforce housing solutions. Tax credit housing does not assure housing development will be used solely for Ketchum workers, and this is why Bluebird is not an effective solution. We need to provide deed-restricted housing that is available to Ketchum workers only. Our current elected officials ran 4 years ago on a platform for workforce housing. Now they are running on the same issue. It's time for change. It's time to elect people that understand the problem and have the energy and ability to solve it. Thank you.
Thank you, Gwen. Reed, an opening statement, please.
Yeah, I'm just really happy to be here. Thank you for everyone for being involved. I think that's the most important thing for me, is being involved. I have a lot of passion for this town. I grew up here. I've spent pretty much my entire life here. My father runs a business here. My mother used to run a business here. My sister is a teacher at the Montessori School in Ketchum. A lot of my friends own local businesses. And that's the point and the reason why I'm here. There's been a lot of vitriol and divisiveness in the last year, 16 months. Obviously, I know we've all faced challenges. I have a lot of respect for Amanda and Courtney. I'm not here to run against anybody. I'm here to provide a new voice. I think that this town needs a certain type of representation. I'd love to be that representation to bridge the gap, between a lot of different areas of the community, a lot of different groups in the community that seem to be arguing. I think that we need to move past the arguing and actually come to the table together and create viable solutions. I think that that's what we've been lacking, not just the past 4 years, I think the past 20 to 25 years. I think we all know that community housing is our number one priority here, affordable workforce housing, but it's not something new. And I think that that's the most important thing to take away from here. It's something that we've been dealing with for decades. And a lot of people have said, hey, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. And I believe it's time for action. I don't believe it's time for arguing. I don't believe it's time for negativity. I believe it's time for positivity, moving forward together as a community. I think everyone needs a seat at the table. It doesn't matter where you're from. It doesn't matter if you're from here. It doesn't matter if you're a real local, as we call them. We just need everyone to come together, work together, have a voice. And I hope to be that voice for everyone. I'd like to think that I connect to multiple people and multiple levels of the community, whether it be small business owners, whether it be teachers, whether it be service industry workers, whether it be remote workers, whether it be tourists. It doesn't matter who you are. We can sit here and blame and blame and blame. And I feel like there's been a lot of that over the past year, year and a half. At the end of the day, that's not going to get anything done. I think that we need to take care of each other. I think that we need to help each other. And again, as I reiterate, I believe we all need a seat at the table. And until we have that, until every single person's voice is heard and every single person's input is taken seriously, nothing will get done, because we're here 20, 25 years later, and we still don't have the affordable housing. We still don't have the infrastructure to accommodate. And that's why I'm here. And I hope to, good luck to everybody.
Thank you, Reed. Terrific. Now we'll move on to the next part. Ketchum reporter Greg Foley, do you have some questions for the candidates?
I do.
All right.
Yeah, the first question for the candidates. What is one thing you would change in the city budget and why?
We'll start with Mickey.
Yeah, one thing I'd change in the city budget, how do I have 1 minute? In the city budget?
30 seconds.
One thing I'd change in the city budget is this idea that the city can fight climate change. You're going to spend money to do that. That's not scientifically proven to be a fact that we can fight climate change. That's the one thing.
Thank you, Mickey. Courtney, your response.
Hi. I would, and we are in the process of working on this. I am hoping to create a housing department within the city of Ketchum, which would obviously need its own budget line item and involve some reshuffling of other aspects of the budget. But I think that due to the importance of that issue in our community, it's important to have a department that is focused entirely on housing. And I think that's an important use of our budget in the future. We have a temporary fund that we receive through ARPA funds from the federal COVID money, but I'd like to see that continue on in a sustainable manner.
Thank you, Courtney. Gwen, what's one thing you change in the city budget?
I've been noticing around town the inadequate sidewalks, especially for ADA compliance for either blind or people in wheelchairs. There's scattered improvements around, for instance, around the library. I think we need to pay a lot more attention and significantly improve the sidewalks and the ADA compliance.
Thank you, Gwen. Reed, your response?
Yeah, obviously sidewalks, infrastructure, streets, a lot of stuff needs work, especially with a lot of people moving to town. But I'd love to just see a focus, not just on community housing and putting money in the right places, but obviously we've talked about environmental purposes. I'd love to see an uptick in our recycling program. I think there's kind of been a joke in town as where does the recycling go? Goes to the dump out Ohio Gulch, right? But what actually gets recycled? terms of changing the budget, I really would have to do my due diligence more and really look into what's going on. But I'd love to see more environmental aspects, infrastructure changes, really taking advantage of all the new people coming into town and making the town just operating smoother.
Thank you, Reed. And Amanda.
I also support creating a housing department and hiring a full-time housing staff person. We had the housing specialist from the city of Vail speak to us about their Indeed program a few months ago, and it really was eye-opening to see how great it can be for a city to have its own staffer working solely on this issue. So we're starting with some of the funds we got, and we may have a contractor soon, but I want to get that in there as its actual own line item in next year's budget.
Thank you, Amanda. Greg, do you have another question?
Yeah, sure, Mark. Thanks. Yeah, the next question I'll pose, how do you rate the performance of the city council in the last 4 years, and why would you give that rating?
All right, we will start with Courtney.
I don't have a scale here, but I'll say a 9 out of 10. I think we've done a pretty good job in the last 4 years of getting a lot done. There's always room for improvement, and I think that we could do a better job at communicating our successes with the public. But I think that we have been really successful at getting a lot of these lingering infrastructure issues off the ground and moving our city more towards sustainability on a financial and infrastructure standpoint, and also at getting some pretty significant housing projects going.
Thank you, Courtney. Gwen.
So I probably would give them a 5. I've been disappointed in some respects about how projects have been approved without significant appreciation from the public. The Marriott project is one prime example, and also the closing of 4th Street. There was significant neglect on both the city council and the mayor for noticing the businesses and supporting their efforts in closing Images Street in our town. And yeah, I think I give them a 5. Thank you.
Thank you, Gwen. Reed.
Yeah, I'm going to stay positive here. These guys have an incredibly difficult job. Again, I have a lot of respect for the city council. I think Courtney said something that really struck home with me about communicating better with the public. That's one of the things that I'm really running on. I really feel like there's been a lack of communication with the public and really being open and letting us know what is actually happening until we've cornered them and questioned them on what's actually getting done. I think that could be done better. But listen, at the end of the day, it's a tough town to be a city councilman. It's a tough town to be a mayor in. I don't think anybody's done a terrible job. I would just like to see more proactive situations and steps rather than reactive. And I think as a town, we've become a little bit more reactive when they get trapped into a certain situation instead of proactive. And that's why I'm here.
Thank you, Reed. Amanda, how would you rate the council?
I'd rate us very high, but with room for improvement. I take Gwen's point on 4th Street. That is an excellent example of something where we should have handled that better. I'll own that. We should have engaged the community for a longer period of time. And that was a learning experience. And I think since then, we've had some really, really good engagement on a lot of issues. And we've got some really tangible accomplishments that have occurred over the past 4 years, the fire station being one of the most obvious. So definitely, I've learned a lot, and I definitely have some room for improvement, but overall quite high.
Thank you, Amanda. And Mickey.
I'd give them maybe a C+ or a B-. They've been actually caught, and they're caught with their pants down as far as affordable housing goes, I think.
This internet connection isn't strong enough at the moment.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I heard you. Thank you, Mickey.
Okay.
Greg, I think we have time for one more.
Okay. Yeah, thanks, Mark. Last question. Do you think Ketchum's character is threatened? And if so, what can the city do to preserve it?
This time we will start with Gwen.
Well, to preserve our character, we need to make sure that so many people who are coming here now understand the heritage of this town and appreciate it and do not want to destroy it. We need to work with everyone to be sure that our town doesn't take a drastic turn in the wrong direction. We need to encourage developers who have a firm interest in moving Ketchum forward and not restraining it in any way with private concern or private intents and not the intent for Ketchum.
Thank you, Gwen. Reed?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. When you talk character, I think there's a lot of back and forth when we're talking about projects getting approved and disapproved. I think if you look around Ketchum, all the buildings look different. I think we hang too much a little bit on that. Ketchum's great. I think the character is about the people. For someone who grew up here, I love the people here, and not just the new people, but obviously the old Ketchum locals. I'm not worried about Ketchum's character. I'm worried about having, people together here in Ketchum and it's still being a vibrant area with successful businesses. I think that character-wise, we're going to be okay. I think that's being a little dramatic. I think we're going to be fine. We just need to take care of the people who really make this town run, and that's the people who work at our businesses and really take care of the new people coming in because we need them.
Thank you, Reed. Amanda?
I think the definition of Ketchum's character is certainly a moving target. You get to get 20 definitions from 20 different people. But the way we preserve that ultimate character is by keeping people living in this town, by not saying, oh, our workers should live south and commute every day. The way we keep our character is we keep a variety of people and of backgrounds and of income levels living in town.
Thank you, Amanda. Mickey?
Yeah, I'm not worried about Ketchum's character. I mean, they're talking about small town character and everything. I'm more worried about poor people, low-wage people making a living in Ketchum who soon will not have a place to live here.
Thank you, Mickey. And Courtney, your response.
Yeah, I also think this is a great question. I think that our character lies in the people that live here, and that the most important thing we can do is maintain the diversity of people that live here, keep our local workers living in our community, and help bridge the gaps that are happening between different demographics in our community right now. I think that's the biggest change that I've seen in our character is a lack of support for other members of the community. And that's the biggest thing that I think we need to work to preserve. We all love our dark skies. We all love Ketchum Alive. There's so many parts of this community that are valuable to everyone here. And I think that it's important that we unite in what we have in common and help preserve what we love.
Thank you, Courtney. And thank you, Greg. Now we will move on to questions from the audience, which I got pages of. So I am trying to consolidate them into some of the most popular questions that were asked by people. Otherwise, same rules apply. Allison is keeping time. This question, we will start with Reed. What specific mechanisms should the city utilize to promote affordable housing?
In mechanisms, do you mean their voice? Do you mean outreach? Do you mean reaching out to people in the public on other ideas? For me, it's using their their power at the city level to, reach out to landowners, to reach out to developers. I think that one thing that we've lacked is open communication with developers. I've spoken to a lot of the real estate brokers in town and to certain developers, and there seems to be a lack of open communication with City Hall at the moment. Again, it just goes back to my platform about working together. I think without, unifying everyone, we're not going to get certain projects done. When we look at places like the Anderson lumber lot, the Albertsons owns, right? Why aren't we reaching out to Albertsons? Why aren't we talking to them? Why aren't we talking to the Barsatis of the world, the Simplots of the world? I just think that we should be using our voice a little bit more.
Thank you, Reed. Amanda.
We need to leverage more city-owned property, and as well as the KURA property at the First and Washington lot for development of new housing. We certainly should focus on existing housing stock. We need a dedicated housing staffer who can look into initiatives such as the Indeed program that Vail does, which is to purchase deed restrictions on existing housing. Right now, we're looking at the in lieu fee program and modifying that to make it encourage more development of actual housing rather than just payment in lieu. And I think we need to relook at the changes we made to the light industrial zoning a couple of years ago, because so far the increased density that we allowed there hasn't resulted in additional housing.
Thank you, Amanda. Mickey?
Yeah, we have to, it's already been said, but the city has to buy more property to develop into affordable housing. It's always been that way. It's been clear. If we don't own the lot, we can't get affordable housing on it.
Thank you, Mickey. Courtney.
There's a lot of different ways, and we are actively looking at a lot of them. I think the Indeed program like Vail has of purchasing deed restrictions on current units is a great way to go to preserve the current housing stock that we have. We are also looking to go out to the voters for an increase in LOT in one way or another to raise more funds and to also expand the LOT fund usage to be spent on housing. I do think we need to acquire more land, whether that's through the city or the KCDC or the KURA, to do more of those projects. I think we need to look at our zoning to create more affordable properties. And I think we need to create a housing department within the city of Ketchum.
Thank you, Courtney. Gwen?
So I support using the city. The city owns a lot of its own land, and perhaps in some circumstances they could sell a piece of property and then invest in their own land and produce a reasonable housing project that suits our needs. I think the Indeed program is very good. I think the developers need to participate on a higher level in producing affordable housing units in their projects. And I think a good solid look at the in lieu housing fund is also important.
Thank you, Glenn. Another question from the audience. Do you believe that Airbnbs and other short-term rentals are appropriate for our town? And should they be regulated? If so, how? We'll start with Amanda.
Well, we've had short-term rentals in our town for decades. But the Airbnb VRBO model has certainly created a lot more of them in recent years. We're a tourist town, so I don't think we're going to not have short-term rentals. Regulating them is such a thorny question because the state of Idaho has limited city powers. However, I want to do whatever we can within our powers through licensing, through additional regulations, through an increased lot tax on those rentals, and through continuing to get more evidence as to whether restrictions on the actual numbers of short-term units, if allowable, actually turns them into long-term units.
Thank you, Amanda. Mickey.
Yeah, the thing is that there are large corporations buying up property all around the United States, including Ketchum, and they're renting them out as short-term rentals. That's the way to make a profit. A lot of people are investing in that. So we have to, in Ketchum, we have to figure out how to identify those people and how to regulate it so that they can't do that in mass. They've got to be licensed with the city of Ketchum, and we need to know what they're doing and how much they're making and so on and so forth.
Thank you,
They
Mickey.
need to be.
Courtney.
Yeah, this is a really tough one, as Amanda said, because our hands are tied by the state of Idaho in terms of how we can regulate them. But at the end of the day, Airbnbs are just little hotels throughout our neighborhoods, and they do have a big impact on the feel and community of our town. So I think that it's important to do everything that we can within the restrictions that we have to ensure that they are licensed and safe and so that we can keep our community strong. I think actually probably the most effective way for us to manage Airbnbs or short-term rentals is to come up with an incentive program to help convert those into long-term rentals.
Thank you, Courtney. Gwen?
So I would support very much increasing the lot tax on short-term rentals. We lag behind both McCall and Sandpoint in that issue, and we need to do work with the state of Idaho and see whatever we can do to reduce the number of Airbnbs and VRBOs, and still respecting people's personal property rights, but try to limit them as much as we can.
Thank you, Gwen. Reed?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, we all know the state doesn't allow city municipalities to regulate long-term rental zoning or short-term rental zoning. And obviously, I think it's kind of a joke to talk about licensing, business licenses. I mean, how are you going to regulate and enforce over 1,000 short-term rental business licenses for people in town? Again, it goes back to everything that I've been saying. Why aren't we talking to these owners? Why aren't we just reaching out to them? I think that's the biggest part of the solution. We can talk about regulation. We can talk about taxation. We have state things holding us from doing that. We have enforcement issues. But if we just talk to these people for when these places are vacant, maybe we can come up with a solution to help out some of our workers in town, even for a short time.
Thank you, Reed. All right, one more question from the audience. Do you believe the city's COVID response has been too strict, too lenient, or just right? And explain why. For this, we will start with Mickey.
Yeah, I think it's been too strict. I think mandating face mask is a little over the top now that a lot of people are vaccinated. I don't have a problem with the city as an employer mandating that all of their employees will be vaccinated, should be vaccinated. I don't have a problem with that, but I have a problem with the masking. And I saw a sign down when I went to shop at Albertsons the other day, and it said that you had to wear a mask if you weren't vaccinated. And I thought that made good sense, actually.
Thank you, Mickey. Courtney.
It's been a really hard issue to deal with, and it keeps coming back. We keep thinking that we've made it through, and it keeps coming back. I think overall we've done a very good job of managing it. It's a fine balance of, do you shut down your whole economy to keep the community safe? Or do you let the community do whatever you want at the expense of potential lives in our community? And we have done what is the simplest, which is create mask mandates. So you can still do what you want to do, just wear a mask while you do it. And I feel like that it has been helpful for our community and is the right thing to do given the COVID rates that we've seen and continue to see.
Thank you, Courtney. Gwen?
Ketchum may have been slightly slow at implementing the mask mandate. I do appreciate people who are vaccinated, and I don't have I don't really have a serious problem with people who are vaccinated and want to be in an open space and unmasked. But as a sort of a health, community health effort, we need to mask when it's appropriate and work on this problem collectively and with a lot of appreciation for good decisions.
Thank you, Gwen. Thank you, Gwen. Reed?
Yeah, I think this is a heavy question that we've all dealt with for a long time, the last 16 months or so. I don't think it's about whether the city was too strict or not strict enough. Again, it goes back to my response earlier. I think it's about, as a city, being more proactive instead of reactive. I think what happened is we did too much of a wait and see rather than take the approach of just being proactive. At one point, we were the highest per capita city in the entire country. It doesn't mean that what the decisions that were made were right or wrong. It's again, just about being proactive and not putting the burden on business owners and everyone else in town. It's about making decisions and then going from there and doing it based off of fact.
Thank you, Reed. Amanda?
Boy, when I ran for office 4 years ago, I know that myself and everyone else didn't think we'd be issuing public health orders, closing down businesses and imposing masks a couple of years later. So it was certainly a unique and brand new challenge for everybody on the council and the city, and for everybody, all of our businesses. I think we did impose a very good response. I think the evidence shows, especially with this latest Delta wave, that we are responding the right way, because compared to the rest of Idaho, our hospitals doing better, our COVID rates are much better, and our schools are staying in session. So I'm proud of our response to the COVID crisis.
Thank you, Amanda. And I think that means everyone got a shot at that question. So we'll take another one. Are you concerned about the rate of development in Ketchum? When is enough enough? Please offer concrete parameters if you can. We'll start with Courtney on that.
I've been waiting for this question. We get it all the time, and it's a funny one because I didn't come into office being super pro-development and wanting Ketchum to explode in construction, and it has happened not necessarily because of any policies we have set, but just because of the economy and the way the world has moved. And there is a lot going on, and there's a lot of people questioning the amount of development that we are seeing. And I think that that's totally valid. I think it's important that we have a community conversation about what we're looking for in development and growth in our community. And I think the biggest thing is that change is going to come to us, and we can either help manage and mold it, or we can let it change us. And so I think it's important that we think about that as we establish how our community will grow, because that's inevitable.
Thank you, Courtney. And yeah, Allison, this is a multi-part question, so we can give them a little more time. Gwen, your response.
We all know that the rate of development in Ketchum has accelerated in the last 2 years. And we're really trying to come to grips with that, how to deal with it, how to encourage it or discourage it. I know in the real estate community, they want all the product they can get. We have to consider how zoning changes might affect Ketchum in terms of density, what we would get if we made zoning changes for more density and development. And for me, I would take a very measured approach to growth and go from there.
Thank you, Gwen. Reed?
Yeah, I'm definitely not anti-grow. I got asked that question recently. Are you anti-grow? Are you pro-growth? Listen, we're a tourist economy. Development's going to happen. Change occurs. Again, and I keep reiterating this, we lack communication with the community. Why not talk to the local business owners? Why not talk to the local developers or local real estate agents? Bring everyone to the table and we develop in the right way. It's not about anti-development. It's not about anti-character. It's not about anti-growth. It's not about pro-corporate growth. It's just about doing it the right way and communicating with everyone what that right way is. And until we have that open dialogue and that open communication, somebody's always going to be unhappy, right? So it's not about pleasing everyone. It's not about pleasing one group. It's just about letting everyone have a seat at the table.
Thank you, Reed. Amanda.
It's such a hard question because it reads right. Growth and development is going to happen, and we're not alone. Gosh, go to Boise if you want to see what's going on down there. And so what is the right rate? What is the right type of development? That's why we just have to constantly be talking about it. We constantly have to engage with everybody here. And one thing that's coming down the pike for a concrete parameter is there's a set of design guidelines being worked on right now to encourage kind of keeping the development within what people and the community have defined as the character of Ketchum. And so that's something I think we can all get involved in to really help hone these voluntary design guidelines to keep that development going the direction that most of us want to see it going.
Thank you, Amanda. Mickey.
Yeah, I'm pretty much pro-growth, because without growth in this capitalist economy, you don't have wealth to spread around if you don't have any growth. And I think we've been quite obstructionist, as a matter of fact. There's some controversial things going on now. It's always too tall or not in the right place, and on and on and on. But I think that Ketchum, it's a way of renewing itself, and it's not going to be like the old Ketchum. You know, we don't have war wagons in the streets anymore, except one day a year. Thank you.
Thank you, Mickey.
Thank you.
And I think we have time for one more audience question. And that is, what is one action the city took in the last 4 years that you would change, and why? For that, we will start with Gwen.
I would change the decision to approve the Marriott Hotel. This is a project that should never have happened on such a small piece of land. There were far too many concessions made to the developer, in spite of over 3,000 people objecting to this project. They went essentially unheard. And that's one of my biggest issues with what has been approved by the council.
Thank you, Gwen. Reed?
I mean, shutting down 4th Street without talking to any of the business owners. I would have definitely changed that. Maybe a little bit more discussion on, listen, I know we needed a new fire station, and I'm pro the new fire station, but maybe there were some other projects that we could use some of that money for, including affordable housing. Everyone keeps talking about how affordable housing is their #1 priority. But obviously other things took precedent over that, or sorry, took the forefront over that. But I mean, honestly, not talking to any business owners and shutting down 4th Street was a huge mistake. But listen, again, I know everybody's got a hard job, so it's easy to criticize, but tough to do.
Thank you, Reed. Amanda?
I'm a big supporter of pedestrian safety and increased pedestrian access. And so I was very excited about the Hawk 4th Street crossing light being put in, as well as the scramble at Main Street. What I would have done differently is asked more questions before the ITD turned those signals on, because ITD did not set the timing right on those. As we all saw during some of the busy times, the traffic got really backed up, and I don't think they're providing the full pedestrian safety that they need to right now. So as the council and the city in general should have asked more questions of ITD and insisted that they not turn on the signaling until the timing was set correctly.
Thanks, Amanda. Mickey?
Yeah, the city keeps saying they're pro affordable housing, but they haven't really shown it. The Warm Springs, for example, there's no affordable housing in there. There's housing, there's going to be housing for rich people, very rich people, and there's going to be a place to walk your dog, but that wasn't an affordable housing priority. And the fire station is right in a place where there should have been another affordable housing tried, I think. And it's not that I don't think that the fire people need, or the firemen need a new fire station, which they have now. But I think that I'm stopped. Thank you.
Thank you, Mickey. Courtney, your response.
Yeah, I thought that we had done a pretty solid job of holding the Auberge project to the fire, and we are still fighting that battle, lawyer to lawyer. And I wish that we had asked more questions and been stronger in that contract, which we felt was strong at the time, but I would love to not still have a hole on Main Street. So we are actively fighting it, but I wish that we had more power on our side on that one.
Thank you, Courtney. Now we will go to the next portion of the program in which candidates ask questions of their opponents. Same deal, you'll have 30 seconds to answer. And let's start with Gwen. Do you have a question for your opponents?
For me, transparency in government is essential. How could one justify modifying zoning rules and approving a massive hotel project like the Marriott when over 3,000 people objected to it and opposition was directed to the mayor and city council through participate at ketchumidaho.org? Please tell me, give me your response. Thank you.
So the question is, how can someone approve the Marriott Hotel project in the face of public opposition?
Massive public opposition.
Okay, Reed. Think you're muted.
Sorry, I got disconnected there for a second. Was she asking the current city council that question?
All the opponents.
All the opponents.
I'm sorry, could you repeat that? My connection got lost there. I don't know what happened. I was muted, or I have no idea what happened.
Gwen, care to repeat the question?
So transparency in government is essential. And I said, how can one justify modifying zoning rules and approving a massive hotel project like the Marriott when over 3,000 people objected to it and when opposition was directed to the mayor and city council through participate at ketchumidaho.org?
How can one justify that? I mean, I was not on city council or part of the mayoral office during that, so I can't answer for them on how they could justify it. Again, it goes back to me just listening to the people. If 3,000 people objected it, I'd have to see reasonings why and why they'd be opposed to it. But other projects have been approved in this valley, for more hotel rooms. Again, we go back to talking about how we're a tourist economy, right? For these local businesses that thrive in town, we need as many places for these people to stay that are coming in. I think really hammering down when we're talking about these projects on making them take ownership on building housing for their employees, right? Because there's certain loopholes about if I have a certain amount of rooms in my hotel, I have to build affordable housing for my employees. We need to hold them accountable to that and not let them take those loopholes.
Thank you, Reed. Amanda?
So we did follow the zoning with the Marriott hotel approvals. There is a hotel specific PUD that is permitted within the zoning in our zoning code. Yes, there was a lot of opposition to the project. There was also a lot of support for the project. The survey that you cite, I absolutely took seriously, but also was an unscientific survey with respondents from many places outside of Ketchum. Overall, I thought the project provided innovative design. I liked the stair-step design of it. I liked the open space that they kept. I particularly liked that, unlike the Limelight Hotel, they provided they provided employee housing on site for a certain percentage of their employees. And I felt that within the hotel PUD ordinance and the benefits that it provided to the city, that it was a worthwhile project.
Mickey, your thoughts on the Marriott?
No, I think it's great. I'm sorry, but they had affordable housing, and I have to defend the council on this one. There's a bunch of really wealthy people in town that just don't like new and bigger stuff, and I don't have a problem with new and bigger stuff as long as we can get affordable, really affordable housing, So, and I'm talking about for low income people. If you're living on Social Security, which averages is $800 to $1,500 a month, you can't afford but $300 or $400 a month for rent. That's it.
Thank you, Mickey. Courtney.
Yeah, I think to echo Amanda, there was also a lot of support for the Marriott project as well. And it was all done within the PUD process, which we have. It is a very challenging lot to work with. And I think that we were lucky to get a project like that was so responsive to our city's demands. And I think that they offered affordable housing for their employees, which is a huge asset. And it really is a great opportunity to develop that land in a way that is beneficial to our community and did have a lot of public support.
Thank you, Courtney. All right, Reed, do you have a question for your fellow candidates?
Yeah, I had a question, but I'm going to change it just going off of that Marriott answer. We talk about the affordable housing that they provided. I'd love to hear from the city council members, the current sitting members, what actual percentage that was, and how that benefits the rest of the community. And if they're not providing affordable housing for the entire amount of employees that work there. And correct me if I'm wrong here, city council, but isn't there a certain rule that says if I build up to 70, or if I build 75 rooms or more, I have to provide a certain amount of affordable housing? So the Marriott went just under that to provide a smaller percentage. And if I'm wrong, I'm sorry, but I believe that's what occurred. And if that is what occurred, what is the percentage of affordable housing that they provided? And again, how does that benefit the rest of the community?
Reed, I'd like to allow all the candidates to answer.
Yeah,
Is there a way to phrase that? Do you believe that the percentages that the ratios of affordable housing required are sufficient on the books?
How do we hold outside businesses or corporations accountable? Not that I'm against them coming in, but how do we hold them accountable when they come in to help the community, and not just for a small percentage of their employees, but for the community as a whole?
Great. And we will start with Amanda.
Exactly. It's been, oops. Okay, I'm unmuted now. I believe it was somewhere, Courtney, correct me if I'm wrong, somewhere between 25 and 28% of the employee staff is provided housing. I don't agree that a hotel should provide 100% housing for its employees, because you're certainly going to have various types of employees. And I sure hope they're going to employ people who already live here and already have housing. So I think that's an extremely unrealistic goal to require 100% housing for its employees. As I mentioned before, a prior city council allowed the Limelight to develop without any housing at all, and that placed the burden on the rest of the community to house employees that didn't already live here. And so I think the Marriott provided a decent percentage, even if it's not as much as some would want.
Thank you, Amanda. Mickey?
What am I supposed to be answering? I'm not sure.
I can elaborate a little bit more. It's, how are we holding these businesses or hotels or whatever they are coming in to our community? How do we hold them accountable to helping our community as a whole, and not just a small percentage of their employees? That doesn't mean 100% housing for employees. It's just, how are they contributing and helping our community, not just a small percentage of their employees?
To me, watching the P&Z process now for 40 years, I believe the P&Z process is biased against development. That's my answer So I don't know what question is even being asked anymore.
Thank you, Mickey. Courtney?
Yeah, I think Amanda, I agree that this project had, I think they estimated 100 employees and they were offering housing for 28 or so. And they worked closely with the housing authority to create housing that would be effective and desired by their employees. I think that it's important to hold businesses who are coming in, bringing in all of these new lower paying jobs accountable. And so I agree with you on that, Reed, that that's something we need to pay attention to. I think that having 28 housing units is a pretty good start. And we have a lot of businesses coming in that have moved here in the last year that aren't helping our housing stock at all and are actually working remotely and taking up more of the housing stock. And so I think it's something that we need to consider. I think the one benefit that improvements like the hotel have is that they are bringing in more LOT funds. And so if we can expand the usage of LOT funds towards housing, that's one way that we can benefit from that.
Thank you, Courtney. Gwen?
So with the Marriott project, estimated number of workers was right around 100. The company who's developing the Marriott hotel, they, in other circumstances in other cities, they have provided housing for their workers. They also stated during the process that they would be bringing many people from their other hotels into Ketchum, which obviously will require housing for these people. I also recall that the housing for the workers is mostly a dormitory style. It's not units, it's dormitory style housing or beds. Thank you.
Thank you, Gwen. Amanda, do you have a question? And let's try to keep it open in a way that all candidates can answer.
It is. What was the last affordable housing project that you supported in Ketchum and why?
Mickey, we'll start with you.
Oh, that's easy. I supported all affordable housing projects that I knew about.
Courtney?
I agree with Mickey. We've had a lot of them. I had to recuse myself from the final zoning decision for the Bluebird project, but I supported Ketchum's donation of city land and city funds toward the tax credit application for that project. And I support the work that we're doing right now to try and increase the in lieu fees, work on creating the Indeed program, and do what we can to help regulate short-term rentals and incentivize long-term rentals.
Thank you, Courtney. Gwen?
So I live in Northwood, and I'm very familiar with the Northwood Place project, which I supported. I think it's it's a nice solution for people. It's more like a community. It's a smaller scale. There's more access to light for each unit, more storage spaces, for instance, more parking. It doesn't it's not imposing on the neighborhood. There's also a second affordable housing in Northwood, which in the Scott building, which I also think is very successful, and I supported that.
Gwen, when you say more, you're comparing it to the Bluebird project?
Pardon me?
When you say more about the Northwood, you're comparing it to the Bluebird project or just speaking generally?
In general, it's a type of affordable housing project that I think is healthier for the people who live there, and not a massive project like a Bluebird. I know I have an interior architecture background. I've studied the plans for the interior of the building. There's a lot that I object to that I don't think is healthy, and I wish the city had gone a different direction for that project.
Thank you, Gwen. And Reed?
Everything and anything, man. We need what we can get in terms of affordable housing. I'm here to support it all. Obviously done the right way. Again, it's stuff that I've reiterated. about, talking to everyone in the community. Obviously, when you try and rush projects, there's going to be people against it for this reason, against it for that reason. But we just need to do it the right way. Obviously, listen, I support the Bluebird, and it's not, because it's as simple as this. We just need community housing. We need affordable housing ASAP. I just wish it had been done quicker. That's all. But yeah, anything and everything is the simple answer to that question.
Thank you, Reed. Mickey, do you have a question for your fellow candidates?
Sure. At what point would they consider their objections to any project unreasonable?
Are you talking about affordable housing projects or just in general?
However they, just in general, any project. At what point do they consider their objections unreasonable?
Okay, Courtney.
I think that unreasonable objections would be if there is no public support for it, this is a very broad question, but lack of public support, lack of public funds, or improper use of city funds, I think are unreasonable objections that are reasonable. So any time that you are objecting for a reason that does not involve those things.
Gwen?
Yeah, I'm not quite sure what the question is. So would I object to, can you, I'm sorry.
Mickey, is it fair to summarize what objections to projects do you deem unreasonable? At what point would it be unreasonable to object to a project?
In other words, are all objections reasonable?
Mm-hmm.
Are all objections reasonable?
Is that
I don't know.
Is that what you're asking, Mickey?
Well, what you said it. That's fine. Maybe it's a confusing question. I'm just wondering, these people that are always objecting to this project or that project, some of them may be unreasonable.
Mm-hmm.
So
at what point?
So in the instance, for example, of Bluebird, there was a lot of confusion in the community because one project, Solstice, was on Main Street, followed every planning and zoning and rule in the book. However, they were declined. Then we end up with a massive, much larger project with Bluebird, but we were told by the planning department that it's the intent of the building that is what is the important thing and not the size. So that just creates confusion among the community, I believe.
Reed?
I think I understood what he was saying. When are objections unreasonable? When are objections to certain projects unreasonable? In my opinion, they're unreasonable when they affect human lives. You can look at the Bluebird project for an example. People are objecting because of the color of the brick. I think I made a speech about that at one point. Kind of embarrassing when you're talking about human lives. People who are displaced, people who can't live in town, have to pack up and leave. That's when objections become unreasonable, when we're putting certain small aesthetics about town in front of actual human lives that we need to care about in our community. That's when things become unreasonable. It's unfortunate, but it's an unfortunate reality.
Thank you, Reed. Amanda?
Yeah, I agree with Reed. I think there were some judgments put upon the plans for the Bluebird project that were unreasonable. There were a lot of people who may live in larger houses and have lots of nice amenities who thought it was unreasonable to have people live in smaller apartments or to have people have a kitchen setup that they didn't think was ideal. That's unreasonable. You know, we need housing, and people have a lot of different standards for what housing they can and want to live in. And let's not project our own comfort levels or our own aesthetic opinions on the ultimate problem, and the ultimate solution, which is more housing now.
Thanks, Amanda. Courtney, do you have a question?
You're muted.
We can hear you from a different microphone.
Echoey. Courtney, do you have a question?
I do. My question is, what is your vision for Ketchum in 10 years, and what policies would you enact toward that vision?
Start with Gwen.
So my vision is a highly inclusive process for every decision going forward for Ketchum. I encourage residents to be more active. I've appreciated very much when subjects have come up that affect a certain neighborhood and how active people become. But I encourage people to be involved with every aspect of the city and help it move forward collectively for a long-term solution to all of our needs in this town, which does include housing and does include traffic solutions and parking solutions, and include businesses and people who own second homes. Thank you.
Thank you, Gwen. Reed?
Yeah, I think inclusivity is a key word there. 10 years from now, I envision a lot of the same that we've had for the last 50 years. Walking by your neighbors, saying hi to them, positive. There's been a lot of negativity in our community recently. A lot of, I don't want them here. I don't want these people here. But I really think, and again, I know I've said this a lot, but we all need to work together. And I'd love for our neighbors to be our service industry workers. I'd love for our neighbors to be our business owners, to be our teachers, our nurses, our doctors. I just envision a vibrant, fun, environmentally safe community 10 years from now. And a lot of what we're already doing, but again, less vitriol and more positivity.
Thank you, Reed. Amanda?
My vision is a diverse community, to have people in all sectors of our business environment being able to live here, to have people from various cultural backgrounds living here, various types of families. And the way we do that is we focus everything we can on keeping people living here, not telling them they have to live south and we close the gate at night and go back into our cushy homes. We need the people living here. And so we need to enact policies where they can live here, such as the policies I talked about earlier on specifics with housing programs, such as converting existing housing stock and developing more housing on city-owned land.
Thank you, Amanda. Mickey?
Yeah, I think we've come to the point where we're not in, well, vision. I don't know if I have a vision or not, but basically I would like low-income people to be able to live and flourish in Ketchum. And I think any obstruction to that is unreasonable. Thank you.
Thank you, Mickey. All right, now we will go on to a 1-minute closing statements, and we'll start with Reed.
Oh, put me on the spot first. I like it. Listen, I've said it a bunch. I'm here to bridge a ton of gaps. There's been a lot of negativity. There's been a lot of back and forth. I just think that everyone deserves a voice. Inclusivity, again, I think is key. Positive momentum moving forward, making sure we all have a seat at the table. I understand it's a very difficult job. I just think that there needs to be more communication with the community, more proactive responses instead of reactive, something that I've said a bunch tonight. And I just think that we need a new voice and someone who understands the community, can bridge the gap between different sects in the community, and someone who understands the plights of a lot of different people in the community. I'm here to be the voice for everyone. I want to fight for everyone. I think everyone has good points, and it's just about coming together and coming up with solutions together in a positive way rather than a negative, argumentative way.
Thank you, Reed. Amanda.
Well, thanks everybody. This was a really great conversation. I really enjoyed hearing from everybody. And I just, it's hard to run for office. So, I'm just really pleased that both in the mayor and the council race, people have wanted to come out and do what they, put themselves out there to do the right thing for the city. If anyone watching out there has additional questions to ask me, I encourage you to go to my website at amandabreenforketchum.com. It has all of my contact information, and I ask for your vote because I've demonstrated I'm a reasonable, analytical, empathetic person in the past 4 years. I do the research, I do the hard work, and I listen to everyone who comes in front of me. I know how to make hard decisions, and I know that you will not agree with my decisions 100% of the time. I think this would be a real boring town if we all agreed on everything all the time. But my record speaks for itself. I'm really proud of what I've accomplished so far, and I really want to be a part of, for the next 4 years, of working on behalf of everybody to keep this town the wonderful place that we all want it to be.
Thank you, Amanda. Mickey, your closing statement.
Yeah, the working poor have been shut out at the national level and at the local level, and that's got to stop. Thank you.
Thank you, Mickey. Courtney, your closing statement.
Yeah, thanks again, everyone, for being here and for having this conversation. I think I wish we had these conversations more often and had more people engaged in all of these issues all of the time, because it would make it makes our decisions easier when there are more engaged people and more questioning of what's going on and how we can improve. So I think this has been a really productive session for all of us. I care a lot about this town, and I've learned a lot about the most effective ways to enact and control the change in our community. And I hope that's come across in my comments tonight. In my time with the city so far, I've supported and achieved a new city website, more energy efficient city facilities, a historic preservation ordinance, a more thorough budget process, a massive water saving infrastructure project, a successful public-private partnership resulting in $12 million in housing funds, and new facilities for our fire station and city hall. There will always be more work to be done on maintaining the soul of Ketchum, and I'd like your vote to allow me to continue my hard work toward that goal. Voting is now open at the county offices, and you can still sign up for absentee ballots at voteidaho.gov. And you can also vote in person on November 2nd at Community Library. So please don't forget to vote. And if you have any more questions about me or my campaign, you can go to Courtney4Ketchum.com, Courtneyforketchum.com. Thanks.
Thank you, Courtney. All right, Gwen, bring us home. Your closing statement, please.
The soul of Ketchum lies with its people, with those who came here long ago, those living here now, and those who will come in the future. Moving forward, we must always remember how we got where we are. We must applaud our successes and learn from our mistakes. As discussed tonight, affordable housing for those who work in Ketchum continues to be Ketchum's biggest challenge. Finding the best solutions to this problem must continue. Ketchum has grown in the past 2 years, especially as people have discovered an alternative to living in large cities. Traffic and parking will continue to aggravate our town if we don't address this issue sensibly now. I appreciate all the support I've been given during this election cycle and look forward to taking a seat on Ketchum's City Council. Thank you.
Thank you, Gwen. That wraps up our City Council Forum. You've been listening to Amanda Breen, Mickey Garcia, Courtney Hamilton, Gwen Rainey, and Reed Stillman. They are 5 candidates for 2 seats on the Ketchum City Council. As Courtney said, early voting is now open at the Old County Courthouse in Haley, and Election Day is November 2nd. We're about to move on to the mayor's forum. Could we take a 2-minute break? And then I will be back to introduce everybody and we'll get started.
Should we mute, I guess?
Thank you, everyone.
All right, has that been about 2 minutes? Water bottle refilled, ready for the mayor's. And are the mayors ready? We have David, Neil, Perry, and Spencer. Great.
I'm ready.
All right. So thank you for listening to the council. Now we will see the mayors. We have 4 candidates running for mayor of Ketchum. Incumbent Neil Bradshaw, challengers David Baravetto, Perry Boyle, and Spencer Cordovano. There will be one elected mayor. Everybody in Ketchum gets to vote for the mayor, so you'll be able to pick for one of these gentlemen. We will start using the same format, start alphabetically. David, do you have an opening statement? I think you're muted. Do you see a little microphone in the bottom left of your screen there? Had it for a second.
Now?
There we go. Yep.
Okay. Ready to go?
Yeah, a 2-minute opening statement, please.
A lot of things should happen when you acquire real estate. Timing should be perfect. Expectations should be great. The architect you hire to help you through the planning stage should have recognizable talent, should be wise beyond his age, should have 50 years experience developing clients' dreams, delivering the spaces sought and made within their means, should have 100 happy homeowners to testify his skill, from a cozy creekside cabin to the last home on a hill, should be a sentinel on the job site, precision within each trade, protecting the client's investment until the welcome mat gets laid. Your future home should nestle like a cottage in a meadow. The architect you hire should be David Barrovetto. I am an architect, and development is within the realm of the profession of architecture. I am looking upon the job working as mayor for the city of Ketchum, and I will approach it as I do other architectural projects, gathering the right people, making decisions, looking for options, and getting on with the project. I've lived here for 50 years. I've saved the Ore Wagon Museum. I developed the Ketchum Skate Park, and I'm put music in the streets on wagon days and cowboy poets in the barn. So I'm ready to step in and help my community the best way I can.
Thank you, David. Now, Perry, and how will your name appear on the ballot?
Perry Boyle.
Perry Boyle. All right,
Yeah.
Perry, your opening statement, please.
Great, thanks. Well, that's a tough one to follow, David. I don't have your poetry skills. That was fantastic. If you're participating, it's because you care about our community and you're educating yourself so you can make the right decision in the voting booth on November 2nd. I fell in love with this town the first time I visited my wife's family here in 1989. My family always spent as much time here as possible. Our kids learned to ski at Dollar. One of my sons went to high school here, was an SVSEF kid. My youngest spent every birthday at Trail Creek Cabin. We took the sleigh ride out there every year. Both my boys worked for Barb's Party Rentals for the last 10 years. And so after decades as part-time residents, my wife and I could finally make the switch to being full-time here a couple of years ago. And we just love the connectedness to the outdoors of this community. We gravel bike in Rebecca's, we mountain bike, we snowshoe, cross country, backcountry ski. And back in the day, this will become a little bit of a surprise. I was actually ranked in the top 25 nationally in ski cross. But just as I understand what it means to be connected to the outdoors, I know what it means to be disconnected financially. And our housing crisis has really kind of hit me right here. I was lucky, I had great parents, but there wasn't a lot of money. I've worked since I was 9 years old. At 16, I moved out on my own and have financially supported myself since then. I graduated from college in 3 years because I couldn't afford the fourth. I know what people mean when they talk about 3 jobs or 3 houses as an economy that they're working in. I'm asking for your vote because after studying the city and attending city meetings, I'm a bit afraid. I'm afraid that we will lose our character, our community, and our connectedness if we don't protect Ketchum from the forces that threaten it. And most of those are coming from the outside. I'm confident that we can restore our city government to transparency and inclusiveness, that we can implement a locals first housing program that will get working people in housing now, today, and that we can preserve the fun and kind of quirky small time character that we all cherish. So thank you.
Thank you, Perry. Neil?
Yeah, thanks, Mark, and thank you to the Mountain Express for hosting this forum. Hello, everyone. I'm Neil Bradshaw, and I'm seeking re-election for a second term as mayor of Ketchum. 4 years ago, I ran my election campaign on a vision for Ketchum that is vibrant, connected, sustainable, and safe. In 4 short years, we've made great progress in all categories. We're making our town more vibrant. We now have more than 100 units of workforce housing constructed or in development. We have successfully secured a housing tax credit that raised the equivalent of $12 million towards workforce housing. We have reimagined the light industrial area and created additional height for small unit housing. Outside of our housing initiatives, we've amplified events, added pickleball courts, and funded permanent interactive public art. We have also made our town more connected. Connection is about serving you better with more communication and more transparency. It's also about being physically connected through our trails and sidewalks, as well as emotionally connected to our history and heritage. Ultimately, connection builds community. In my time as mayor, we have found a new home for City Hall, launched a new award-winning city website, and regularly communicated through our engaging bi-weekly newsletter, Word on the Street. Furthermore, we've held more than 40 open houses and stakeholder events on top issues at the time. We've made great progress on our sustainability initiatives. Most notable is our replacement of the old Ketchum Springs line. 6 miles of new pipeline laid over 4 years is now saving water losses of more than 350 million gallons per year and reducing our electricity pumping costs by $50,000 a year. In fact, as a city, we're using less water now than we did 4 years ago due to this infrastructure investment. Finally, we've made great strides in improving public safety. Following the successful $11.5 million fire bond measure in 2019, Ketchum Fire 2.0 is now completed with the construction of a state-of-the-art fire station, a new ladder truck, new brush truck, new training facility, and they're now all in place. It was such a different story 4 years ago. This is an administration that's getting things done in a very challenging and changing environment. And with your support, I'm looking to continue the momentum we've created. Thank you for listening, and I look forward to addressing your questions this evening.
Thank you, Neil. Spencer, do you have an opening statement for us?
I sure do. My name is Spencer Cordovano, and I want to earn your vote to be the next mayor of Ketchum. I feel we need a local and a mountain town expert at the helm to guide Ketchum into the future, a future that is embodied by and defined by its past, our legendary past. The problems that are facing our town right now are not new to me, not at all. I've seen them across the West happen in every other ski town. I had friends getting evicted in Jackson 10 years ago. Vail's Indeed program is not new news to me. I was at a housing conference in Vail 5 years ago. In my opinion, the number one skill set of the mayor cannot be taught or bought. It's having a finger on the pulse of our community. As a 32-year resident of the Wood River Valley, I have seen the change. I will be the ear of the people and the backbone of our workforce and our small businesses. I feel the struggle of Ketchumites more than any other candidate in this race. I've been feeling the call to action for over a year now. I would not be here right now if we didn't have so much positive influence and a real opportunity to save the first and the last great American ski town. My varied professional experience, including running my own business and working with large corporate brands all over the world, has prepared me for the responsibilities of the mayor. I own property within the city limits, am an HOA president, have my LEED certification, am on the front lines of workforce housing, and have donated large sums of money to local nonprofits, even as a small self-employed business owner. I cannot stand back and watch K-Town, our town, be led behind closed doors or cater to the needs of Wall Street. If you feel the same, I want to earn your vote. Ketchum is the ski town. Let's keep it that way. Each and every member of our community came here for the same reason. We all have that in common because Ketchum is Ketchum. I understand the needs of our single-family homeowners, remote workers, up-and-comers more than any other candidate in this race. I've been to over 75 ski resorts in the West and the world and can create this change through my global perspective. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Spencer. Now we'll move on to questions from Express reporter Greg Foley. Greg, do you have a question for the candidates?
Yeah, I do. Thanks, Mark. Yeah, my first question for the mayoral candidates. If elected, what are 3 specific policies or programs you would propose in the first year of your term?
All right, that's a compound question. We'll give a little more time and we'll start with Perry.
The first thing I think we would do is implement a locals first housing program. We need to create a supply of housing that is not available to the short-term rental market or to be developed for the luxury market. So a locals first. We would require the people in this taxpayer subsidized housing to work in Ketchum. So that'd be the first thing. The second thing we would do is we would totally revamp the planning department. The application of our zoning code has been arbitrary. It's been hard for developers to plan for. It's kind of the number one complaint I get from developers. Only 2 projects have gotten through design review this year. I stopped. Thanks.
Neil?
Yeah, I mean, it will really be a continuation of what we have, the momentum behind this. The first, of course, is Warm Springs Preserve. I really want to see that become a passive public park in perpetuity. I would like to see on the housing front, I'd like to see our in lieu housing fees be adjusted, and we're working on that. Bluebird, of course, we've approved that, but I really want to see that constructed. So those would be 3 things that I'd draw out, but there's many more balls in the air and too many, but you asked for 3 and those are my 3.
Thank you, Neil. Spencer?
Hey, can you repeat the question, please, Mark?
Yeah, Greg, am I getting this right? What are 3 specific things that you do in your first 100 days as mayor?
Oh, the 100 days applies to the mayor too. That's riveting. I think number 1 is understanding the process and that there's a 2-month shadow period that goes for the new elector if one is unseated. And I think looking at a placemaking procedure like Aspen and Dirt in 2016 would be very valuable. That might take more than 100 days, but I would be spending money quickly. I think this housing director needs to be hired. I think we can use the slush fund. And I think that we really need to evaluate the in lieu fee and how it's used, and also look into using impact fees to reduce costs for developers when certain criteria are met. Thanks, Mark.
Thank you, Spencer. David?
I agree with Spencer. It will take a while to get to know the people that I will be working with and evaluate their position and their contribution. I just took a trip last week to Park City and Jackson and talked with people over there. And first of all, I want to say that we live in a paradise compared to what's going on in those 2 towns. They have really got some struggles. Our struggles are here as well. We can deal with them. It will take some time. Obviously, affordable housing is the number 1 issue. The environment is also, as leaders of the ski and recreation industry, we have to do what we can to protect our environment, and recycling comes into focus on that. I've talked with Mr. Goyton Dia from the waste management, and there are some issues to be dealt with. We do need a housing czar. In Park City, they have 3 people working on housing, and we need someone to be the overall knowledgeable person about our housing dilemma and the potential we have.
Thank you, David. Greg, do you have another question for the candidates?
Yes, thanks, Mark. What can the mayor and the city government do to support businesses?
We'll start with Neil.
Well, I think we do a lot for supporting businesses. What we can do, most importantly for them, is create a transparent environment in which they operate. This has been a very challenging year, of course, with COVID and everything else like that. So there have been changing rules. But if we can communicate with them, and if we can continue to work with them as we do all the time, then we will find a way to support them. And I think we are. I feel very good about my relationships with the businesses. I feel good about how we're working with them. And, again, communication is key, and we will continue that going forward.
Thank you, Neil. Spencer?
I think the number 1 thing that we can do to support our small businesses is tip better, smile, greet them, ask them how they're doing, help your check stand at the grocer with their groceries when they go to their car to get out of there for the day. I think we just need to be nice and support these people. I think I will be the ear of the people. A lot of our small business owners don't live in Ketchum, and the small business of Ketchum is the fabric of our community. Every resident, local, and visitor of this town comes here to explore our small businesses, and they define the character of our community.
Thank you, Spencer. David.
Well, I think that the small businesses have to really get organized in the sense that where is the Chamber of Commerce? Where is the Better Business Bureau? Ever since the restaurant closed down, they don't have a place for a meeting. They don't have a place to conduct their business and do it in an orderly fashion. I think we need to find space for them that they can represent themselves as a legitimate operators in the city of Ketchum with Chamber of Commerce.
Thank you, David. And Perry?
I think the best thing we can do for them is to give them a voice. They feel unheard. They feel unheard about the traffic and parking issues. And then the second thing I think we can do, as Spencer noted, many of them don't live in Ketchum because they can't afford to. And so I think we need to provide a locals first housing program so that we can bring local business owners back into our community to live here. Thank you.
Thank you, Perry. Greg, do you have a third question for the candidates?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, to circle back and talk a little bit more about housing. A couple of you did mention that in the answer to my first question, but maybe to drill down a little bit, what do you think are two, or do you think there are, and what would they be, two specific achievable actions that you could pursue in your first year that would address the workforce housing crisis?
Thanks, Greg. And Allison, we can give a little more time for this one. Starting with Spencer.
I think the number one thing that we can do is create a culture around renting local. If your favorite small business is under threat, do what you can to help them out. Before we figure out a way to incentivize this, we can create a culture around it. The most valuable part of me growing up here was when I had a German exchange student, and we still keep in touch to this day. I think that there are a lot of creative solutions to be found, and I've researched what all other small towns or mountain towns are doing on this, and a lot of that depends on the state tax legislature, and that differs between Jackson, Aspen, and Idaho greatly. And understanding those binds on bureaucracy, it will be an uphill battle, but this will be my first and foremost priority.
Thank you, Spencer. David?
I came up with a concept for a building that lays up against the side of the hill. I call it a pocket of potential. And it would be a self-contained village that would have grocery store, that would have pharmacy, and we would look to have this area where people who live there do not own an automobile. We would come up with different levels of transit, whether it's zip cars or Ubers or small buses or large buses. This is a potential to house about up to 750,000 square feet. That would be what I call democratically acquired, and it would have all levels of economic people living in it, ranging from dormitory space to premier housing conditions.
Thank you, David.
Something out of the box.
Thank you, David. Neil?
Yeah, I'll give you three. First of all, I mentioned already the in lieu housing fee. I'd like to see that passed and should happen in the next 40 days or so. At some level, we're still discussing exactly what that amount will be. And I'd like to see us continuing to put out RFPs for specific projects on city-owned land. This will take a longer time because we need that open house discussion with various members of the community to see which land options they prefer. But I really want to get us to look at the next project. We can't just stop at Bluebird. And then, of course, finally getting a housing person, a dedicated housing person on city staff. And we're in the process of interviewing for that, but we hope to have that done certainly within the next 100 days.
Thank you, Neil. Perry.
We need to take back our housing commission from Blaine County Housing Authority and make it work for us and have that be the community's voice in our housing solution. My plan is a locals first housing plan, deed restricted housing for local workers. I would sell surplus city property, such as the site of City Hall, take that 10 million or more and put it into deed restrictions in existing condos today to get people in housing today. Thank you.
Thank you, Perry. Now we will move on to questions from the audience. These questions have been submitted in advance. I'll try to pick some different ones than we asked the city council. Starting with David, what is your stance on mask and vaccine mandates?
Vaccine is, I think everybody should get vaccinated. I can understand why people do not want to get vaccinated. I believe in masks in bars and restaurants. When you're walking through, when you're seated, you can take the mask off. When you're going into grocery stores, you can wear a mask. It's a voluntary thing. We're Americans and we don't like mandates.
Thank you, David. Perry.
I'm vaccinated, as are the vast majority of the people on the Zoom. Over 75% of Blaine County is vaccinated. So we know what the people of the community believe in. Our major risk comes from outside the community. And I think we should require visitors to our community to be vaccinated or test negative. If we all were vaccinated or tested negative, we wouldn't need masks. And I'm with David on this one. Mandates are really tough on masks, especially for children. Thank you.
Thanks, Perry. Neil?
Yeah, thanks. Look, from the start of this pandemic, I've been trying to depoliticize COVID and be a model for respectful dialogue. I'm delighted by the response of our community. After being hit early, hard, and at the initial outbreak, we've seen a community that has risen to the challenge. In any policy recommendation, we need to balance our physical health with our mental health and our economic health. And I put various mask resolution, and other measures in front of the council to slow the spread and address ever-changing situation. And the situation will continue to change. Often voting has been split, which demonstrates how difficult these decisions can be. But I believe we've done well with respect to our goal of keeping people safe and treating everyone with kindness and respect.
Spencer?
Thanks, Mark. The bottom line is, I think to wear a mask is a very small ask. I've made the personal choice to get vaccinated and think the city should follow all federal mandates as they come down the pipeline. Our small businesses have the right to refuse service to anyone. I will empower them to keep their employees, customers safe as they see fit. If you want to make the choice to require a mask, I think you should be allowed to do that. If you don't want to make the choice to require a mask, I think you should be able to do that as well. This is how we create a culture around supporting the businesses that we support internally. The fabric of our community is our small businesses. First and foremost, we need to keep them open. We will value the needs of all of our community and be a good neighbor. Our hospitals are overrun and workers are living outside in RVs. Let's do whatever we can to support them. Sorry for going over.
Thank you, Spencer. And I believe everyone had a chance to answer that question. So we will go on to another one. Is the Warm Springs Preserve the right project for Ketchum to focus on right now? Why or why not? For that, we will start with Perry.
This is a tough one. The city's been put in a very difficult place. It's either cough up $9 million or watch that be developed into housing. I personally support Warm Springs Preserve. I've donated my own personal funds to that. I hope that everybody on this call will do that. I would like that to be open space for the community as it has been. So I'm for Warm Springs Preserve, but I don't think we negotiated a very good deal on that one.
Thank you, Perry.
Neil.
Well, first of all, I want to thank Perry for making a donation to that. And I'd love to see all the community participate at whatever level they feel comfortable. This is a fantastic opportunity for us. And, you know, we can always look at what we could have done better or worse, but let's thank the developer here because he's given us an opportunity to make this incredible park a public park in perpetuity. And I'm so thankful for that. And I'm so thankful for the community is stepping up, and I'm sure we'll get there. I'm confident we'll get there, and I think it'll be something we'll look back on in 30 years' time as being one of the best decisions we made.
Thank you, Neil. Spencer?
Thanks, Mark. While $9 million is a lot of money and workforce housing is our main priority, we have an opportunity here created by the private sector making a social cause. This property could be sold for double very easily. To purchase property at $3 per square foot is a huge opportunity when you look at the rest of property in town selling for $150 to $250 a square foot. If every nearby homeowner contributes what they can to ensure open space in their backyard, this could happen. Under my leadership, we would have had a more riveting fundraise. I would have liked to see an acre or two for workforce housing on the table. Also, no one's talking about the 6 acres that the city owns behind the YMCA skate park, and it even comes with a seasonal flush.
Thank you, Spencer. David?
Well, it's interesting conundrum. It's too nice for affordable housing, so let's give it to the dogs. It's a huge gesture, and it shows what kind of a community we live in, where this amount of space is set aside for an open preserve, and let's call it the dogs' lucky day. We should have I agree with Spencer that we should have taken a look at providing some affordable housing on that spot.
Thank you, David. Next question, and I think this speaks to what some of you were saying in your opening statement. What is the greatest threat to Ketchum's quality of life, and what can the city do to fight it? For this, we will start with Neil.
Well, I think the greatest threat is not having the diversity of residents here. You know, the heart and soul of our town is really about the community. It's about our social fabric that spans so many generations, life experiences, and economic means. It's a dynamic. It's dynamic, and it has broad participation. We need to continue that participation. Our community is vibrant because it has we have a pride in our town and a sense of place, and we have to maintain that sense of place to keep the vibrancy and keep our community.
Thank you, Neil. Spencer?
I think the biggest threat to our community right now is the Aspenization effect. When our penthouses start to sell for so much money that the commercial spaces downstairs don't have to rent. The soul of this ski town is the community. The reason I've made sacrifices to move home and want to continue living here is the community. It's the people that live here. Without the people, we do not have the same community that all of our residents, visitors, and locals are here to or come here to enjoy. Thank you.
Thanks, Spencer. David?
Clearly, the biggest threat is the lack of housing for our workforces. The restaurants and bars are straining to keep open, and this has been kicked down the road for the last 20 to 30 years, and resolution has to come quickly and effectively. And everybody is pointed in that direction. It's just a matter of who can deliver.
Thank you, David. Perry.
Yeah, I think the biggest threat to Ketchum is the middle getting squeezed out, and this turning into Disneyland, where some rich people get to live here, and then the workers are bussed in every day. We need to preserve the middle here. We need to create a housing supply that can't go into tourism. So I don't think any of us disagree with that. It's just how we would do that. This is a very attractive place to live. We're going to get loved, and we got to be careful we don't get loved to death. We're going to have to manage our development smartly, and that's going to require a rewrite of the zoning code. Thanks.
Thanks, Perry. Next question. How should Ketchum approach short-term rentals within the city limits? And for that, we'll start with Spencer.
Thanks, Mark. I think short-term rentals should be allowed within the city limits. I think there should be some redistricting that goes into excluding them out of certain neighborhoods. This is a tricky conversation. Short-term rentals actually do contribute to our economy quite well through making money for our local property managers and housekeepers. In order to meet my proposed 25% tax, I think we need to require a business license fee in the realm of $2,500, since these are businesses operating on residential code in a commercial fashion. That's not fair to our hotels. If we jack a fee on our taxes to 25% for short-term rentals, which under Idaho state tax code, you can't delineate hotels from that. If Sun Valley didn't follow suit, that would create an unfair marketplace that would leave dollars outside of the Ketchum city limits. And other resort towns have made short-term rentals qualified as less than 90 days, which is something that I think we need to look into.
Thank you, Spencer. David.
Yeah, I agree with what Spencer is saying. He's right on top of that, and we have to find a solution. And it's a very difficult scenario with the state disallowing us to make decisions about our own residential potential. It needs to be worked on. We need to approach the state and try and get this regulated. That's an effort that needs to be made.
Thank you, David. Perry.
Well, first of all, I think locals who rent short-term to pay their mortgage or put away for retirement should be protected in whatever we do. It's really people who own multiple units who are competing as hotels. They should be licensed and regulate like the hotels they are. We should definitely, I don't think anybody disagrees, we should definitely increase the lodging tax and to invest in local first housing. I think we should also try and regulate the quantity of them. I think we should take the risk that Sandpoint has done and pass an ordinance to regulate the quantity of them. Thank you.
Thank you, Perry. And Neil.
Short-term rentals, to a certain degree, our hands are tied by state legislators. So the most important thing we can do is work with our local legislator. We've been working with Michelle Stennett to seek amendments to the state law which allow resort communities have more local control. If we could do that, then we could actually structure it in the best interest of our town. The McCall initiative does not restrict rentals. It just kind of regulates them to health and safety standards. We could take a risk and do the Sandpoint limitation, but our city attorney has advised us that's fairly risky. So my focus will be on trying to give us local control. They've been able to give us local control on COVID. Why can't they give us local control on short-term rentals?
Thank you, Neil. I think one more question from the audience. It's a two-parter, so I also need to give a bit more time. Do you feel that Bluebird is the right project for Ketchum? And where do you see the next affordable housing project coming? For that, we will start with David.
Bluebird is a good concept. It's at the wrong location, and it's bad business for Ketchum. The city hall should stay where it is, in the middle of town, as opposed to be putting 4 blocks away where It's easy for them to get a great taco, but they're not accessible to the casual people who want to stay in touch with City Hall.
Thank you, David. Perry.
There's a reason that 2 Mountain Express polls about Bluebird had the same results. The community's not in support of Bluebird by 2 to 1. We can do better than Bluebird. And, I've talked a lot about this locals first housing program that I'd like to do. While it's being sold to us as externally financed workforce housing, if we look at the facts, it's a for-profit private development on public land. It's a poor economic deal. It's like when you offer a kid 2 $1 bills to get a $5 bill. To get the $12 million in tax credits, we're giving up $20 million in economic value. It costs multiples of what nonprofit Arch builds equivalent housing at. And we can do better and we can move faster. We can sell that site and put that money into locals first housing and get people into housing in a matter of months, not a matter of years. I'm done. Thanks.
Thank you, Barry. Neil, your response.
Well, housing raises a lot of tough, complex issues. With simple, disingenuous answers are not going to solve the problem. Our community deserves better. There are very few affordable housing projects that don't have tax credits, particularly in Idaho. That is because the math is the math. The cost of construction, the cost of the land, and the rents that you want to charge. You have to have a slug of money, and in this case, tax credits, to get things done. So I'm delighted with Bluebird. I'm delighted that we've got it over the line. I think everything and anything we can do on housing is much needed. And it's a long process. This started, in my initial term, we made a tax credit. This is the 3rd tax credit application. The first 2 were not successful, but with lobbying and going to Boise a number of times, we managed to change the criteria to allow to get more local contributions scored to help score more points. And that meant we got $12 million. So we took $6 million of value of the land, and we got another $12 million to help build that. I mean, we effectively tripled the value of that land. And so I'm delighted. In terms of a return on investment, a triple bagger is good by any standard. So, and if it's going towards housing, even better still. So thumbs up to Bluebird and let it move forward. And we need that model will be used in future as well.
Thank you, Neil. And Spencer.
Thanks, Mark. This is a real pitchfork sharpener for our community. Everybody's heated over this one, but this election is not about a building. This is about the future of Ketchum, so keep that in mind. After 3 different attempts to secure this federal grant, we need to push this through. I have no option but to support this project. However, under my leadership, I would have gone cash in, cash out to have this building built across from Bigwood Bread in the industrial area, and its construction would have been done by now. Our small businesses and employees are stressed out. I feel for these people. A lot of misconceptions in the realm. A community school teacher does meet the qualifications to live in this house. Let's not let parking get in the way of progress. That's a manageable problem. This building meets city code for parking. I'm a capitalist too. Since when has taking money from the Fed been such a bad thing?
Thank you, Spencer. Now we'll move on to questions from candidates to their opponents. Same deal applies. You'll have 30 seconds to respond. And we will start with Perry. Perry, do you have a question for the other candidates?
Yeah, I'll give people a softball here. Mayor of Ketchum is a part-time job by statute. How are you going to fill the rest of your time during the 4 years as mayor? Thanks.
Neil?
Yeah, it doesn't feel like a part-time job to me, but I love it. I love it because I think we're making a difference to our town, and I don't mind ever spending those extra hours in City Hall. I go there every day early and I stay late, and I see so many of our staff in the same thing. They're working late. They're doing their best. It's been challenging for our staff, and I just want to do a shout out for them because they've worked late to address the multiple applications that are going on, all the different concerns and questions we've had from the community. So I love it. I don't know if I'll have much chance for other parts of my job, but I do slip it in from time to time at the weekend. But my priority has always been Ketchum and the mayor of Ketchum.
Thank you, Neil. Spencer.
Thanks, Mark. I actually have a unique liberty that I could put my video business to the side, but still keep it operating in a way that I could make the salary of the mayor work and be supplemented to continue to meet my personal income requirements. But I guarantee you this, I will work harder and more diligently than any other candidate in this race for that 40 grand. That speaks to me. I'm only a creature of passion. I'm very passionate about this. And right now, I really, really want this job.
Thanks, Spencer. David.
When Averill Harriman introduced skiing and Sun Valley to the United States in 1937, he imported a culture. And the Wood River Valley is in support of that culture. We live for Sun Valley, the mountain, and skiing and summertime recreation. We embody the culture with Sun Valley being the head, Ketchum being the heart, Haley being the soul, and Down Valley the strength of our community. We need to work together, not isolated. We need to work together to make the culture work.
Thank you, David. Neil, do you have a question for your opponents?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I want to thank all the candidates, and I appreciate the softball question, and so I'll ask one back to others. If you had a magic wand and you had a one wish for Ketchum, kind of what would that be?
Spencer, your wish for Ketchum.
I do have a magic wand. I just can't find it. My wish for Ketchum is to let me earn their vote. I'm not mad at any other candidate in this race and have nothing negative to say about anybody, but I truly believe that my skill set will apply very well to this job. I have creative solutions. I want to collaborate. I want to put people in the room. I want this community to stay the community that it is, that all of us came here to be part of. And I'm open to having those hard conversations in a productive manner and break down walls. Thank you.
Thanks, Spencer. David?
If I had a magic wand, I would produce this. That is a beautiful potential that needs to be looked at and considered as a wonderful project that can encompass all sorts of housing. And think of the impact we would have on the skiing community in general if they saw this happening in the queen of all ski areas.
Thank you, David. Perry.
I think a magic wand is appropriate for kind of my vision. I don't want this Tinkerbell to wave the magic wand and this become Disneyland. This needs to be a community where people can live and work and build a future, where young people want to come and commit themselves to putting into the community more than they take out. And I think we can all work together to do that. And I'm excited about the potential opportunity to do that. Thank you.
Thank you, Perry. Spencer, do you have a question for the other candidates?
I do, Mark. And also thanks to the Mountain Express for holding this virtual debate. It's a little weird, but it's also a little relaxing. My question for the other candidates is, out of the past Ketchum mayors, out of the past 5 mayors of Ketchum, if any, who had served on city council prior to serving as mayor?
David, do you have the answer?
I don't know how to answer that. I ran for mayor of Sun Valley 8 years ago because I wanted to participate in the governing of our community. it's nice to sit at the main seat and control the conversation.
Thank you, David. Perry, do you know the answer?
I don't.
Neil?
I think Nina did for sure. Randy did, and then I think Dave Hutchinson would be the other one I'd put on the list. But I might have missed somebody. I don't think. Are we going back as far as Jerry Seifert?
At the Express, we're always going back as far as Jerry Seifert.
We are not. Out of the past 5 Ketchum mayors, to the best of my knowledge, Randy was the only one to serve on city council.
Well, Nina did too, for sure.
Copy. Thanks, Neil.
Yeah. Sorry.
And last question for the candidates. David, do you have a question for your opponents?
Yes, in the unlikely situation, if you all would not win the mayoral race, would you be willing to serve the city of Ketchum for a year in a paid position to be the housing czar?
Perry.
Yeah, you don't even have to pay me. I do it for free. I do it for $1 a year. I think it's the most important challenge facing the city. There have been some great ideas put forth tonight from people running for the mayor, but also the people running for city council. We need a plan. We need somebody who's familiar with putting together plans and turning ideas into actions. I've kind of got a 30-year history of doing that, both in the private sector and the public sector. As you know, my signs, I cross out mayor because I'm not, it's not about me being mayor. It's about us working as a community to elevate this community, solve the problems we've got. So I'm definitely going to keep working for the city. Thank you.
Thanks, Perry. Neil?
Yeah, I would do whatever. I mean, I did that before I was mayor as president of the Ketchum Community Development Corp. We did the Northwood Place as well as a bunch of other projects. And I've always been a passion for affordable housing. And that's how I sort of cut my teeth and learned how hard it is, how difficult it is. But I also know that success can be achieved. And it can be achieved just by, being in the salt mines, working away. It doesn't happen with easily, but it can happen and can happen effectively. So yes, any role possible to help our town.
Thanks, Neil. Spencer?
I've got more than a year on this, David. This is bureaucracy. This is Idaho State Tax Legislature. These things are not going to happen quickly. Would I serve as the housing director? I would very much need to know the salary. I think that that's very important. I also could qualify as the sustainability director with my LEED certification, which pays double. That speaks to me a little bit. However, I just need to comment that I think it's interesting that the salary of the mayor in the political landscape makes it so that you're not motivated by the money to be there. But at the same time, I think there's something to be said about that and the candidates that come out for the race. I'm looking to provide youthful, forward-thinking leadership to the city. And as I would rather be the mayor, because I think that fits my global overview of putting people in the rooms and being a jack of all trades and master of none, you better believe it, buddy.
Thank you, Spencer. All right, now we will move on to closing statements. David, do you have a 1-minute closing statement?
Yes, I have lived in this community for 50 years. I have enjoyed giving it, and I have enjoyed taking everything that this community has to offer. We live in paradise. I consider us to be the center of the universe, and everybody who comes here wants to stay here, wants a piece of the pie. We have magnificent people working here. I appreciate everybody joining us tonight on both levels, council and mayoral. And we all want the best for Ketchum. So let's have a good turnout and do the best we can with what we've got.
Thank you, David. Perry, your closing statement, please.
Sure. We've talked about a lot of ideas tonight. And as I just said, I have a long career of putting ideas into action growing things, making them blossom, empowering people, and lifting people up from the bottom. I hope that when everyone signs off tonight, whether or not you vote for me or whether or not I win, that everyone's going to want to work together with me and your neighbors and whoever is elected to implement things like a local first housing program, to restore Ketchum to open and transparent and inclusive governance, and to work as a community to preserve the character of this town. I hope to earn your vote, and if elected, to be worth the confidence you place in me. If you want to hear more about my ideas, just call me, 208-806-1305, or visit the website. Thanks.
Thank you, Perry. Neil?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you to everyone for listening tonight. Thank you to Perry, Spencer, and David. And thank you to the Mountain Express for hosting this forum. To me, this evening has highlighted three things. First, housing initiatives will remain our #1 priority for our town, whether it be in the development of additional tax credit housing, private partnerships, zoning and code changes, or the management of short-term rentals. Second, preserving the heart and soul of Ketchum will be another priority. This includes the protection of our livelihoods, our buildings, and our culture. Finally, infrastructure investment and capital improvements are imperative to our town's success. We need to allocate capital to ensure we can maintain and enhance our streets, water, waste, and service levels as our town grows. I'm determined to see this on a number of projects. I want to see Warm Springs Preserve secured as a passive public park in perpetuity. I want to see Bluebird Village constructed, not just approved. There's the completion of the 4th Street Heritage Corridor, and there's a historic preservation initiative and design guidelines that also need to be finalized. We can't afford a pause in the momentum. Myself, the council, and the staff are working well together on getting things done. If I'm re-elected as Mayor of Ketchum, we'll have the opportunity to continue the momentum that we've created over the last 4 years. That momentum was achieved because of the support of the council, the city staff, and the Ketchum voters and taxpayers. And for that support, I'm truly grateful. I conclude by asking for your vote on November 2nd, and I wish all of you a very good evening.
Thank you, Neil. And Spencer, your closing statement, please.
Thanks, Mark. Ketchum, Idaho, baby. Come for the winters, stay for the summer. We all love this place for the same reason. Let's keep it what it is. Shout out to Mayor Jerry for setting up the lot tax back in the 70s and early 80s. You are the man. The Hillside Ordinance, that is the value of our community here. It's on the May 21 or 22 ballot. We have an opportunity to further our community values there. Let's get 1% for housing on it. Let's do this. If you want to live in a town that continues to put kids on the Olympic podium, I want to earn your vote. If you want to live in a town that doesn't project social bias, I want to earn your vote. If you want to live in a town that calls on the private sector to collaborate, doesn't have a backlog of building permits, has a thriving workforce, open restaurants, and exciting nightlife, I want to earn your vote. If you want to live in a town with street parties, film premieres, abundant live music, I want to earn your vote. Let's learn from other ski towns what they did right, what they did wrong, and let's make this thing happen, baby. Please get out and vote November 2nd. Thank you, everyone.
All right. With that, we will conclude our candidates forum. I'd like to thank David Baravetto, Perry Boyle, Neil Bradshaw, and Spencer Cordovano. They are 4 candidates for Mayor of Ketchum, and they will be on the ballot November 2nd. Early voting is open now down at the county courthouse. And for more coverage on this race, in fact, we have profiles of all 4 of these gentlemen up on mtexpress.com right now. Go to our website or pick up a copy of the paper any Wednesday or Friday. Other than that, thanks for stopping by and have a good night.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good night.
Thank you, Mark.
Thanks for everybody.